social life is a key to every human being. We love to be including things. As a single guy, it was a little bit easier for me to, you could invite me anywhere at any time, group, a little drink, a little coffee here, that it was really easy for me, But once you become a foster parent, you really have to limit, depending on the age of the children, it's not easy to just say, hey, let's go somewhere, that's not possible, But two, there's also the privacy of the children. So you can't always take children everywhere with everybody. You have to selectively choose who you want to involve. But that means you have to cut on the social life you have. So my kids go to school. So once they come out of school, anything after 3 is almost impossible to be, but only if it involves the children, then I can bring the children. But any adult social life, it kind of dies out after they come from school. Kids need a routine, so they go to bed early. For my kids, they're younger, the earlier they go to bed, so they can have a very good 8 hours to 10 hours of sleep. So that means anything, I cannot invite people at 7, kids about to go to bed, we cannot visit someone that far because kids are about to go to bed. So that routine forces you or forces me to keep a less interactive or less social life, because I need to keep that regimen, the routine for the kids. So you have to be willing, absolutely, to cut your social life in order to truly be there for the kids. Yes, it's hard, but sometimes it's the best way you can do. But also that social life. So instead of going to them, maybe sometimes they're the ones who you selectively say, well, I cannot make it to the grocery store. Would you bring me a pint of milk? Would you go do something for me? So rather than you be part of them, you let them be part of you, but find you home, but not you going to them. So that's what happens, that your life becomes a little busy, becomes shrinks in some way, and your social life is so limited. So you have to be willing to let it go. If you're a busy person or you love social life, like you truly have to cut on what you have in order to be there for the kids. Social life is part of our lives. It's what we do every day, and each one of us, we do it differently. For me, I tend to be more an introvert, that I prefer to work every day, come home and just not be disturbed by anyone. But then I'm learning that our kids need more of a social life than I do. That I have to learn, or I have learned that for me to help my kids socially, for me to even observe my kids, how they do outside my home, that I have to be part of the community. So I found that the foster parents, who have kids of the same age as my child or my kids, I have been the best, I can say. That sometimes I don't know them, I've never met them, but knowing that they are foster parents, that they will understand my kid, but I will understand their lives as well. That has been easy for me. That it's socially, if I didn't have kids, no way I would have, been part of their community. But having kids, you put your own self on the side for the sake of the kids, to be able to have more of what I cannot provide them at home. So your social life, so you have to be willing. So as I said, I'm an introvert, but I've learned truly how to be part of the community, how to go out of my way and enjoy other foster parents or enjoy activities that involve the kids. But in that way, I get to truly help my kids and see how best I can help them, how they interact with the outside world. So you have to be willing. As a foster parent, you have to be willing. It can't just be always in your home, always by yourselves, that you need to include. You need to be part of the larger community in order to help yourself, but help the kids as well. So it's important to truly have a wider way of looking at community and social life as well. Well, I have lots of friends that I've lost. Why? Because we don't match in some way. Before, as a single guy, it was easy to have any friend. They do things that I don't necessarily recommend or like. But as people, they were my friends. But once you become parent, once you have kids, you have to learn and you have to be willing to lose some of the friends, even families. I have close families or close friends that truly don't understand foster life or have issues that would trigger my children to get in places that I don't need them to. That sometimes I don't feel they are quite a good influence or people to be around. So I had to be willing. Yes, it was hard. Yes, it was difficult, but I had to be willing to let go of some of my close friends for the sake of the children, so that my kids can have a good environment that will cherish them, but also will help them as we raise them. So as a foster parent, as a friend, like, you have to be willing to lose a few friends. Either they're family or they're just acquaintances that you have to be willing to let them go for the sake of the children. Ooh, be willing to lose family. Yes, that's one. When I became a foster parent, or before I became a foster parent, I went to friends and families and I said, hey, I'm thinking about really truly signing up to be a foster parent. They're like, oh no, you can't do that. Why should you do that? Why don't you help your nieces and nephews? Why do you have to bring someone biologically you don't know, we're not related to, and they felt somehow that they were taking away from them. But that should not be the case, because that was my call. That's something I really love to do, and I wanted to change the kids' lives. So it didn't matter what family said or what they wanted. To me, I wanted to fulfill my dream to be a dad. So you have to be willing to lose your parents, or not your parents, but brothers. They'll come along later. But at the start, if they don't agree, they don't need to be part of what you do every day. But they will come along, or they will come around. The other part is, you cannot share most of what is going on with your family and the kids to your family. They love you, so they will always protect you first, So you have to be willing to say, well, in this area, I'm not going to allow you to get in because I'm not sure how you'll take it or if you'll be supportive of my kids. So I had to be willing to let go of some of my families. Actually, I did not talk. Once I became a foster parent, I did not talk to my biological parent for 6 months because they did not understand, but I was willing to put them aside for a while, and then they've come along the way. But for my own sake and for my kids, I had to make that decision that I and my kids come first, and anyone who didn't, I had to put them aside. It's hard, but for the sake of the children and you, it's worth doing. So before I became a foster parent, I had to go back to friends and say, families and friends, and say, look, I want to be a foster dad. I have friends who are doctors, I have friends who are social workers, I have friends who are counselors, I have friends who are therapists. So I have friends who are good at cooking, that I had to go to each one of them and say, look, I am about to do this. I don't know how to cook, but would you help me how to learn to cook kids' meal, For the therapist, I say, look, I'm going to be dealing with mental problem as I become a foster dad. Would you be willing to, when I make a phone call at midnight, to take it in? I have friends who are doctors and say, look, I don't know how I respond if my child gets sick. So instead of running to the hospital, is that okay if I can give you a phone call before so you can help me? So I had to be willing to say, these I don't know, but I have circle friends that are good at what they do, and that's their professional, that I was willing to go to them and say, hey, would you be willing to help me? Would you be? And if they said no, I would let it go. But I would say all of them said, absolutely, we would love to help you. Make that phone call when you need it. And they have been absolutely the most amazing people to have in life, where I need them in every aspect for the kids and for me as well. Even to the point of, I don't know, what detergent I need to use to wash my kids' laundry. I had to ask, and they will always help. No matter how small, I have always had a place, people I can go to and say, hey, I don't know about this. Would you help me? And they did. Become more vulnerable. As a guy, I think it's easy to always feel like we have a solution or we have an answer for everything. Naturally, that's kind of how I feel like I don't have to ask anyone. I got it. Peter, you have it. And that's always how I feel. But as you become a foster parent, you have to be willing to be vulnerable. You have to be willing to your families, to your friends, to those that are truly love you, to say, look, I'm overwhelmed, any way you could take me for coffee. You have to be willing to, that you have all the answers, to always seek help, especially for me who's never been a parent. Like I truly had to ask about anything. It could be the tiniest thing, but I will always prefer to ask someone who's walked it or who's done before, that they were willing to help. Then the other part for me, I think I'm the only, in Oklahoma I was the only male who's a foster parent. In Charlotte, there's maybe about another 2 as well. So there's not that many men that are foster parents, but there's more female that are foster parents, that they have the most wisdom, they have the best answer, and they have walked it for years and years. As a man, I had to be willing to go to my fellow foster moms and say, look, I don't know how to do this. Any way you could help me, For example, I had no clue about oils. How do oils work? What are they for? That they have taught me what oils do and how important they are. Shopping, I had, I always, a single guy, I knew what to buy, walk in and go. But man, I didn't know what to buy for kids at the grocery store. But I had to go willing and humble to my fellow foster moms and say, hey, how do I make a grocery shopping for the kids? How do I make sure that I select kids food that is good for the kids, nutrition wise, But I had to be willing to go, even when I needed some time that I was overwhelmed by, by just the nature of being a parent. I would always be willing to go to my foster parents and say, hey, could you have my kids for 2 hours so I can go for a run, do errands, So I had to be internally honest with my fellow friends and say, I need help. And that's important for our own growth, but also for our own insanity, so we can be there fully for the kids. Like vulnerability is not easy, but something you have to do. Well, as a foster parent, there's so much that you get to experience, the trauma for the kid, but also you get to know the history of where the children are coming and what they are dealing with while you have them. So you have to be willing to make sure that you protect their privacy, that their issues, their trauma is between you and them and their specialists, the social workers, their therapists, and their parents as well, that you have to keep that information between you and them, nobody else. So you have to learn to not share too much, especially to those that love us. Any parent, if I told my mom how I'm treated or how hard it is with the kids, I'm sure she will protect me first, and then the kids later. And that can be discouraging for me as a parent. So I had to learn, that, hey, the story of my kids is for them to tell, not my job to tell. But also, since they are children, that I have to truly protect their privacy, that you have to learn what do you say and how to keep all that information to yourself and only to the specialists that are included, and that will help the child, that there's no need to tell the whole world or even those that are closest to you. Sometimes even when we're so stressed, when you sit for coffee, don't ask me about my kids. Don't ask me about the issues they have. Ask me about how I'm doing. But for what the kids are facing, that is not for me to tell, just to protect their privacy. So you gotta learn how little to share or nothing to share about the children. Yes, you have to be a kid again. So I never had a childhood growing up. As I can remember, there's no one time I ever remember being a kid. I started working so early, so the kid life, I think I'm experiencing it as an adult. So I had to learn that the kids want to play. The kid thinks different ways, things to entertain kids that I never had, but I had to learn. So I had to be willing to go to their level in order to learn them, to welcome them, to make them feel included, to make them feel connected, but also to give a sense of belonging, but also a sense of, hey, you're a kid, you can be a kid, and for me to go to their level. And so it's important to be willing to be a kid again. I've had 2 girls. I cannot tell you how many times I had to play the tea time and the hair thing. I mean, it was really cool, something I had never done. But for the kids, it mattered so much. And it was fun for me to go to their level and see the connection and feel like, he understands us. And that's what they're looking for, someone who is not there to judge them, but someone to love them as who they are. They're 7, act like a 7-year-old. They are 14, they are 14-year-old. And in that way, you connect and they're willing to trust you as you grow with each other. There's no manual that comes when it comes to parenting. When I get that phone call at 3 a.m, that's all I do is open the door and the kid walks in. No one gives me the prior, their whatever they have or wherever they are, their personality is 0. All that has to show up as you get to know them. So you have to be creative in trying to get to know them. You have to be willing to go an extra mile or find things you've never done, just so you can understand how to reach out to them and how to understand and be there for them as well. Resourceful. The social worker is not necessarily that they know where you live. So for example, I have my kid, he was coming from a different county. So 2 hours away. I mean, they have no clue where the dentists are. They have no clue where the closest hospital or anything to do with the kids. So I could not depend on the social work. I had to learn to be creative and resourceful to find those centers to help my kids that I can do on my own, that I didn't have to depend on what the social worker told me. So you have to really go beyond what the social worker can provide for you and do it your way. It's easy for me. For example, we go to a therapist who's just, less than a mile. So sometimes we walk there. But I had to find someone who I don't have to drive miles and miles. The hospital is also a bike ride. So I had to find things that work for me as a single man, but also are easier for me rather than depend on what the social worker recommended for me. So you have to be creative and absolutely resourceful for the kid, just so you're the one who knows the best and you know your community the best. So better to look around you or ask other foster parents who are within your community than always going a little farther than you should not. Other foster parents are truly the best thing there is. You hear the saying, they say, it takes a village to raise a child. It truly takes a village. And being part of other foster parents is the greatest I can say. 1, they have walked the same walk you've walked. They are trained the same way you've been trained. They know every issue of your child, every child you've had. So what is the best, who's the best person to work with or partner with? Other foster parents, so you gotta be part of. You don't have to have 20 of them. You need 3 that you can talk to. Also, when you need help, you can go to. Sometimes I wanna throw in the towel and say I am done, but the only person I can call that understands why I'm about throwing the towel is another foster parent, and I can honestly tell you 1,000,000 times they've come and say, Peter, we know it's hard. We know this is, you got to think about this kid. Because why? They've walked through the frustration I've had. They have walked through those frustrations, the stress, all that they have walked it. They're able to help you in some way, to help you regulate, to help you to come down, to even remind you of, Peter, do you remember what you signed up for? So it's easy as a single person to have no one around me, but having a community, a village of moms who they're just not moms, but they are foster parents. They understand every trauma of every child that I've had. But they're able to look into my eyes and say, you'll be okay. You can do this, Peter. You can do this. And so it's important, absolutely, to be part of Honestly, yes, they are my lifeline. Sometimes I call them at 3 in the morning. They pick my phone. Why? Because we understand each other and we're able to be there for one another. So they are truly my lifeline. For me, I didn't have kids before, so it's not like I had a history or experience that I could come in with. I truly had no clue, but I was willing to learn. But then I found out that everyone has a way, a system, they're parented, and everyone will tell you how you should do things, and it can be frustrating. Or sometimes you feel like, am I doing the right thing? You know, because so and so says I should do this, so and so should say I should do this, and that what I found is like they don't know my kids, they don't know the trauma we have to go through. So you have to, yes, hear the criticism, but look the other way, because they don't know you, they don't know the issue of the kids, and you have to learn to not really buy into what people say. You know, it's you and your kids that know the best for them. You know, for some of us who are on social media, yes, you get critics who will just say they never met you, they've never seen you, but they feel they have a right to tell you how you should do things, you know? And sometimes I've learned you just read and go to the next. Not take it personal that everyone has this right to say what they want to say. But you have to watch that you don't take in that much, because that can be discouraging for you as you walk, as you learn, and as you want to be the best parent. You can only be the best parent you can be as you can learn and understand your kids' needs. No one else tell you how you should do, you know? For me, it's been a joy to collaborate with the bio parents, and say, hey, you know, how best can I help your kid? They have 1, 2, 3, and 4. How can I? And their parents usually will say, well, when it does this, do this. When it's feeling this way, feel this way. That I found the best support from the bio parents or the relatives of the parents, rather than from just anyone who feels like they have the right to be parents. So as a single dad, yes, I had to learn that, hey, I have the tools, I have the knowledge, and I can do it in some way without always listening to the criticism or how well I didn't do well. Well, I'm doing the best I can. And to learn how to just let it go, let it go, let it go. Fostering is a cool thing. It's something I never dreamt I would do. But somehow one day I thought, I just cannot be a standby or just a listener, that I had to decide to say, I know it's hard, but I'm gonna make that decision to help the kids. And here's why. Someone did it for me. I could not just sit and watch. I could not just sit and listen. All the kids in my community have nowhere to go. I knew I had to do something. I knew I had everything, resources. I had everything that there is for me to help the kids. And so that's why I decided to take off the journey, that to whom much is given, much is required, that I felt that I'd been given so much, that it was my time to do so. And I know it's not a calling for everyone, but I know it's a journey for me, that not all of us can be foster parents, but we can all do one little thing. There are many children who want to be known. There are many children who have no one to lift them, no one to say, hey, you matter, you're seen, you have all the potential there is to be in the world. Nobody's saying so. So my mission, my goal while I'm a foster parent is just so I can make every child known now. So they can say, Peter said we matter. Peter said we're seen. And that's all they're looking for. Would you do the same?